Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi'ina lahum bi ihsan ila yawmiddin wa alayna ma'ahum wa fihim bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. To proceed, we are continuing this lesson in the ship of salvation. This is our 45th lesson, and we are continuing the discussions of earth ablution. We have reached, in the PDF we've been using, section 7D, where the author with the translation says there are 5 pillars for the earth ablution. 1, transferring the earth. 2, the intention. 3, wiping the face. 4, wiping the arms, including the elbows. And 5, border between the 2 wipes, meaning the 2 times one wipes one's face and arms, including the elbows. So he says there are 5 pillars for the earth ablution. And like we discussed in ablution itself, in al-wudu and in al-ghusl, what is meant by pillar here is, and can be translated as it is translated in the Reliance of the Traveler, an obligatory integral. So we would understand this as there are 5 obligatory integrals. There are 5 obligatory integrals of earth ablution, and that means the legally essential elements of earth ablution that compose earth ablution, in order for it to be valid, are 5. So of these 5 integrals, the first is transferring earth, and that is in Arabic, naqlu at-turab. And in the discussion of the conditions of earth ablution, we discussed the conditions of the earth that may be used. So when we are using this earth, the first of these obligatory integrals is that the earth must be transferred from where it is, for example on the ground, to the face or the arms that are being wiped. So that is an integral, and that is transferring the earth. The second of these obligatory integrals is the intention and niyyah. And with each chapter, we must learn how to make the proper intention of that chapter. And here in Tayammum, we have a unique intention. So the intention in Tayammum is not lifting ritual impurity. So unlike wudu and ghusl, unlike ablution and the purifying bath, the intention here is not to lift ritual impurity, but it is rather to render things lawful that would otherwise be unlawful without tayammum, right? So there are things that we want to render lawful, and that may be prayer or tawaf. If we were to say this book, just imagine this book were a Quran, that would, in order to touch it. Or, for example, if we wanted to do the prostrations of Quran reciting and other things that are unlawful for someone in a state of major ritual impurity or minor ritual impurity. So if we want to render one of these things lawful and we are unable to use water, Tayammum is the vehicle by which we render them lawful. So the intention in Tayammum is istibaha, to render lawful. So for example, if someone is intending to pray an obligatory prayer, the intention would be nuwaitu istibaha fard as-salah. I intend to make obligatory prayer lawful. And with that intention, you could pray 1 obligatory prayer or perform 1 obligatory tawaf, and whatever one wanted of voluntary prayer, voluntary tawaf, touching Quran and the other things that are unlawful without purity. And that is the highest level of intention and the strongest intention. The second level of intention is, for example, I was going to pray the duha prayer, right? The mid-morning prayer. I'd slept, for example, or lost ablution some other way, lost purity some other way, and now I'm going to pray the duha prayer. So I would intend nawaitu istibaha as-salah. I intend to make prayer lawful. Or nawaitu istibaha nafl as-salah. I intend to make voluntary prayer lawful. So with that intention, you can perform as many voluntary prayers as one wishes and other things that require purity. However, you cannot perform an obligatory prayer. You could also make a voluntary tawaf, but you couldn't perform an obligatory tawaf. So that is a second level, and you could say lower level of the intention, and that is prayer and everything else. But that intention is not strong enough for the performance of an obligatory prayer. And then let's say that someone lacked purity and they wanted to touch, hold, recite Quran and the other things that are impermissible when one lacks purity. So one could make an intention in their tayammum, nawaitu istibaha mas al-mushaf. I intend to make touching the Quran lawful, right? With that intention, they may hold their mushaf, recite. They could recite from memory if they were in a state of major ritual impurity, and so on. However, they're not allowed to pray, whether voluntary or obligatory. So those are three levels of intention. Intending obligatory prayer or obligatory tawaf, and you can do one obligation and as much of what you want of voluntary prayer, tawaf, or other things. Second level is making prayer or tawaf itself, or voluntary prayer tawaf, lawful, but not obligatory tawaf or prayer. That allows you to pray as many voluntary prayers or tawafs as one wishes, and other things, touching Quran, reciting, and so on, though not an obligatory prayer. And then the lowest level is everything else, everything other than voluntary prayer. So beneath that, and that's like touching the Quran, reciting it, and so on, going back to those things that are forbidden for the one who lacks major and minor ritual purity. So that is the intention, and it is, for example, nawaitu istibaha fard as-salah. I intend to make obligatory prayer lawful. Or nawaitu istibaha nafl as-salah. I intend to make voluntary prayer lawful. Or nawaitu istibaha, everything else, right? I intend to make all the other things lawful. So I intend to make touching the Quran lawful, for example. So those are three levels of the intention. These three levels of the intention, they also apply to someone who is in a state of constant nullification of their purity. So that is like someone who has urinary incontinence, or a woman who is in a state of istihada, which is abnormal bleeding beyond the days of period. They have these same three levels of intention in order to make prayer lawful for themselves, because they are not removing the state of ritual impurity, but they are just making these things for which they need purity lawful for themselves. So that is the intention of at-tayammum. And then another thing about this intention must exist when one begins to transfer the earth. So if we were to say that I had a pile of earth here, right? Nawaitu istibaha fard as-salat, I would intend making obligatory prayer lawful, right? And then, so it has to, the intention has to exist from the time one begins transferring earth until the time one wipes one's face. And in the view of Imam Ramli, as long as it's present when one began transferring the earth and present when one wiped one's face, that is sufficient. So that those are the first two obligatory integrals of tayammum, transferring the earth and the intention. And in our upcoming lesson, we will finish the remaining of the 5 obligatory integrals of tayammum, insha'Allah. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.